Hey friends, this is Marilyn from tarotclarity.com, and I hope some of you enjoyed my 8-part series on the Udas Picard Tarot deck. I enjoyed doing it. It was a nice diversion from the insanity and the madness that's going on, but also I needed a break from, political readings and stuff like that, and to learn something new and something fresh. So I hope those of you who didn't catch the series, I hope you check in on it from time to time. I will be doing a political reading today, however. Now today, it's Saturday. I'm not exactly sure of the date. It's either the 12th or 13th, but I can't be sure. And so it's been a few days since CK was taken out by somebody in his own camp who was more extreme than he was. But there's been a lot of damage done before knowing who was responsible for this act of violence. The regime declared war and announced that Democrats were the enemy. And so it's not a good thing. And I think we all need to be on edge. Now, as it turns out, the Fat Boy Institute, think of the first letters in each of those words, did not figure out who was responsible. The father of the culprit told a friend or told a pastor or somebody, and that person is the one who called it in to the authorities. But I wonder, had the culprit not confessed to his father, and had the father not shared that information with someone, with the Fat Boys Institute or with the authorities, even if they knew it was him, would they have pursued him? Maybe they could have left it like it was a big, here's my bias. I'm convinced that they never would have found him. Or if they had, maybe he was on their radar. But I'm convinced they never would have admitted that it was one of them. Because they immediately blamed the people who advocate for stricter gun laws. Now they immediately blamed the people who advocate for the stricter gun laws. It makes no sense. Anyway, to do this read, which will be on, I want insight on, had it been up to the Fat Boy Institute and the Keystone cops in charge, would they have ever figured it out? And if they had, would they have shared? They might have let him go, Knowing who he was, they may have let him go. I kind of want insight into that, so I'll do a signature spread. For this read, I'll use the Rare Triumphs by Cumpstey. It's a petite deck. I can easily get all the cards in the spread, my signature spread. And it's a little bit out of my element because there are some cards that are a little different than my orientation for them, my understanding. I'm leaving 2 cards that are the same. I think I'm leaving both of the Fool cards and both of the Magician cards. I'm going to leave them both in. Choice I'm making. So let me go into my meditative place, concentrate on those 2 aspects of this situation, and I'll be right back. Oh, and I wanted to share something that I did share on one of my videos, I think video 7 of the Udas Picard series, but somebody, Marie, sent me this beautiful gift in recognition of the readings I do, and as a thank you. And it's gorgeous. I just love it. It's like uncanny. It just is a perfect fit for my middle finger, which is where I really wanted to have a ring, because I have so many that fit my ring fingers, but I don't have hardly any that fit my, middle finger, which is kind of like where you would, one of the fingers I think that you would wear a signature kind of piece. So I love it. So thank you, Marie. So I thought of a third question. So while I was handling and mixing the cards, so I'll share that with you so that I'm not just speaking on it during the read. One was, would the Fat Boys Institute ever have figured out or found the guy? If they had, would they have let him go? Because after all, how embarrassing for them to admit that he was one of theirs. And if they had not have found this guy, would they have found a Democratic patsy? Because immediately they declared war on the Democrats and the left. It's just so sad. So I'm having those three aspects, and I've asked the universe humbly to grant permission to see what we're allowed to see through me. So we have the nobleman in place of the emperor, somebody who pursues the fun things of life. Less a man of substance, I think, in my take on this. Less a man of substance and more a man of leisure. The Thunderbolt, is the form of the Tower card that we see in the Via Veil and the Ruin Brussels style. Catastrophe, disaster, disruption. And then we have 8 hearts, which would be the equivalent of 8 cups. Organization of emotions or things regarding the heart. A restore to order, faith. The King of Clubs, which would be the equivalent of the King of Batons. Fiery kind of guy. The way I see it, other people have different takes on this card, as did Udis Picard. But this is not an Udis Picard deck, and I'm free to interpret the cards as I, understand them. He's definitely a gentleman or a man with a past, which is questionable, unless he is, surrounded by cards of water. He's probably overcome his shortcomings. Let's see what the card in the core 9, center of the core 9 would be. 3 of the same suit. That's interesting. So this person is somebody who has probably overcome his shortcomings. So certainly not anyone in the regime. And then here we have 3 of the swords, the equivalent of swords, which is identified as spades. Falling right under the 8 of hearts, which is interesting. Knight of clubs under the King of clubs. So the knight of a suit would be somebody who tended to the needs of the king. As would the valet of clubs be of service to the knight. So this is a very interesting corner here. Isn't that interesting? And above them we have a king. Above him we have an emperor whose pursuit is luxury and comfort, not governing, which could have caused a lot of mayhem and trouble regarding the emotional world. It's not surrounded by fire, although it's surrounded by a thunderbolt, which I guess could be a pretty big jolt of fire if you look at it like that. So it could have been, this individual's influence could have been a disruption to the well-being, like the emotional well-being of the collective. I see 8 as a number of being, high-ranking number in the emotional realm. We have the arrows pointing up there. Let's see what card falls underneath. And we have the 6 of clubs. Interesting. So we have a predominance of clubs here. We have this whole section is clubs, and this is an extremely well shuffled deck. I meticulously riffle shuffle 11 times and then overhand 21. So there's no chance that this deck is, left in order or anything like that. So it's very interesting. So let me go off camera, come up with the quints. I'll be right back. Alrighty, so you see with the quint cards, we have a strong alliance. There are strong alliances regarding this issue. You'll notice that I had to pick, of course, another card from another deck, so I chose another Ian Cumpstey deck, The Great Parade. So the top row, the quint is, it's called the President, but it's in place of the Pope. Ian Cumpstey chose to call it the President, the person who has the power in the country. This is a question regarding American politics, so it makes sense that perhaps the president would be identified here. He's pointing. Now, is he pointing sideways or is he pointing on a diagonal? It's not clear. I think he's pointing sideways. So it's hard to read the action. I tend to read the action. Like for example, in this row, the action is in this way because this is the way the people are looking, right? This is the action that's flowing here. The arrow is also in this direction. Here, maybe the action is more up, like pay attention to what's going on up. This guy's looking this way. These two are absorbed in themselves. And so here in the top row, it's kind of like the nobleman and the president, the people who are the elite, clearly, are focused on what's going on between them. And we have disruption of well-being. Sorry. Now, this isn't coins, but this would be, representing emotional well-being, which really is what happened. This individual who did the unthinkable of taking another life, which is deplorable. Excuse me. The deck almost fell. Anybody who resorts to that is horrible. I mean, that's the whole point of wanting to put an end to that. But it's like, it's fuel for the fire. You know what I'm saying? It's like the elite, they supply the fuel, Now, the Eight of Hearts by itself is not a disruptive number or a suit, a number in suit, right? But next to the flash of fire, it's just, it's disruption of emotional health. Emotional well-being, as far as I can see. So, and then we have strong partnership, strong suggestion of partnership. So, excuse me for slurring my words. So I get the sense that there was a lot of pressure to find the right guy. There's a lot of pressure to find the right guy. Now, the final outcome card is the Star. Oh, yes, it's the Star, right? So, and he's going in this direction. So there is a suggestion, maybe that they knew who it was. Perhaps they did. Maybe they were scraping their feet in making it happen. Although this row shows batons and swords, which are quick, but it's a low rank, right? They're not in a hurry. And they have that alliance thing going on. So I'm wondering if they did know, if they did have an idea who it was, but that they were scraping their feet on it, which is kind of an interesting thought. Looking the other way, right? Looking the other way. It's possible this kid was on their radar. Now, another question was, if he was on their radar, if he was on somebody's radar, would they have... If he was on their radar, they're not the ones who identified him. However, it was from a loved one. So there's another partnership here too. Could be quite a few partnerships. The partnership of the son telling the father telling a minister or priest or whatever, a friend, a family friend, or the minister of the family. And it can also be the partnership of family, right? So there's a lot of alliances and a lot of allegiances that are here being represented in this spread. And the message, right? The message. And we have a pair of 3s here, and we have a 6, which is an interesting dynamic. And then, of course, we have the Lover. Since these 2 cards do not have numeric value as far as I count them in, this is my spread that I developed, so I can do it any way I want. I know some of you may call me out on it. But we have somebody doing somebody's bidding, right? See? We have somebody doing somebody's bidding, the elite's bidding, to honor relationships, or so this could be either one. This could be, it only could have been done through the way, the channel that it happened. It could be that, because the other alliance with the elite might have been too strong. There might have been a lot of pressure, even if they were aware of who it was. Now, it doesn't seem to answer, would they have come up with a Democratic patsy, which was part of the question that I asked. It doesn't seem to be yielding that answer. It just seems to be yielding an answer of, there was a lot of, as I mentioned, a lot of alliances, father-son, and then the allegiance to the ruler or the president, the elite, deliberately stirring up emotional trouble. Perhaps, we see the star card. It suggests that perhaps they were aware this kid might have been on their radar, but they were scraping their feet about it. They may have let him go, or they may have just turned a blind eye because he wasn't convenient. Maybe it's not answering whether or not they would have found a patsy, because maybe they would have had trouble to prove the patsy was there. There may be somebody who's a perfect fit, but if you can't prove that the person could have been there, could have done it, then that becomes kind of a problem. Interesting. Very interesting. Well, I hope you guys found some insights in this spread and this read. I thank God, really, perfect, that there's people that I told you about who lived across the highway from the street where we live, across the road. Not exactly a highway, but you know what I'm saying. Thank God they left. Thank God they left. Because those are the kind of people who would have been fueled to cause trouble. So wherever they are, I hope they're not causing any trouble. Until next time, friends, peace, stay well, be kind, and be brave. These are scary days, definitely.